In this video, we're going to take a look at graphing cosine function. So in this problem, we have to determine the amplitude, period, and 5 key points of y equals to -2 cosine of pi out of 6, and then we have to graph amplitude is the distance from the center line of the graph to the highest or the lowest point, and distance is always positive. It will be equal to the absolute value of the coefficient of our function. In this case, it's -2 times cosine. So we have -2. Amplitude is equal to absolute value of -2 is +2. Period is always 2 pi divided by coefficient of x. In this case, we have pi out of 6 multiplying x. The way to divide by a fraction is you keep the first thing, change division into multiplication, and flip the second fraction. So we have 6 out of pi, 2 pi is out of 1, pi and pi will cancel. So the period is 2 times 6, which is 12. While I'm here, I'm going to calculate quarter of the period, which is instrumental in calculating the 5 key points. Remember, you can only have whole values for cosine at 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360 degrees, or 0, pi out of 2, pi, 3 pi out of 2, and 2 pi radians. Once you have your starting value, adding quarters of the periods will simplify your function into those angle measurements. Quarter of the period is equal to 12, which is our period, divided by 4, and we get that quarter of the period is equal to 3. You always begin graphing cosine functions at whatever x value makes this angle equals to 0. Pi out of 6 times x has to be equal to 0. If you solve for x out of pi out of 6 out of pi out of 6, we get that you start at x equals to 0 divided by anything equals to 0. Unless you see addition or subtraction, cosine graph will begin at 0. Let's calculate our 5 key points. We need x values and y values will be calculated by substituting x into -2 cosine pi out of 6x. First x value is 0, and y would be equal to -2 times cosine pi out of 6 times 0. So this is -2 cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is equal to 1, so we have -2 times 1, which is -2. So our first point on the graph will be at x equals to 0, y equals to -2. The next x value is calculated by taking previous x, which was 0, and adding quarter of the period. In this case, it's 3. So next x value is equal to 3. Y value will be -2 cosine of pi out of 6 times 3. 3 is out of 1. 3 and 6 can be reduced by 3, so 3 will cancel. 6 divided by 3 gives us 2. So we get -2 times cosine of pi out of 2. Cosine of pi out of 2 is 0. So this is -2 times 0, which is equal to 0. The next point will be when x is equal to 3, y is 0. So our point is 3, 0. The next x value will be 3 plus quarter of the period, which is 3, and this is equal to 6. we have negative 2 cosine pi out of 6 times 6. 6 is out of 1. 6 and 6 will cancel, and we get negative 2 times cosine of pi. Cosine of pi is equal to negative 1, so we get negative 2 times negative 1. Negative times negative is positive, so we get positive 2. By the way, if you don't remember what cosine of pi or cosine of 180 is, you can absolutely use the scientific calculator to refresh your memory, because cosine of 0, pi out of 2, pi, 3 pi out of 2, and 2 pi will always give you a whole number as an answer, which would be either 0, 1, or negative 1. Okay, so this point would be at x is equal to 6 and y is equal to 2. So 6, 2 is our next point. The next x value will be 6 plus quarter of the period, which is 3, equals to 9. And y value will be negative 2 cosine of pi out of 6 times 9. 9 is out of 1. Both 6 and 9 can be divided by 3. This will give us negative 2 cosine of 9 divided by 3 gives us 3 pi divided by 6 divided by 3 is 2. And we get negative 2 times cosine of 3 pi out of 2 is equal to 0. So this will give us 0. So when x is 9, y is equal to 0. So 9, 0. And the fifth x value to complete our period will be 9 plus quarter of the period, which is 3. And this equals to 12. Our y value will be negative 2 cosine of pi out of 6 times 12. 12 is out of 1. 6 and 12 can be reduced by 6. And we get negative 2 cosine of 12 divided by 6 is 2. Pi out of 6 divided by 6 is 1. And we get negative 2 times cosine of 2 pi is 1. And this is equal to negative 2. So when x is 12, y is equal to negative 2 over here. 12, negative 2. And now we just need to connect our points. That's all.